All right, let's get into it. We're going to talk to Steve, who's calling in from Arizona. Steve, you're live on Truth Wanted. What's up?
Hey, it's great to talk to you guys. Love your show.
Thanks, Steve. What you got for us?
Am I wrong about this, or did you say that Alex Jones was involved in the production of the 9/11 conspiracy movie called Loose Change?
He was involved in so he was interviewed for Loose Change. He's been involved in a couple of 9/11 movies, but Loose Change was a series, and he was at least part of some of those series, yes.
Well, having seen the movie, I have to believe that there is something to the 9/11 conspiracy. I don't think it was exactly the way that.
Yeah. Okay. So which conspiracy are you talking about, right? Because there's a couple of different takes on how 9/11 supposedly went down. What do you think is most convincing to you?
Well, for example, the plane that supposedly hit the Pentagon, then they had video footage showing that I don't remember the model of the plane, but it somehow penetrated, I think, a 3-foot thick concrete wall, and then it left no. The wings did not get sheared off, and went into this hole, and the wreckage plane was not at all. In fact, they said that they found a part of a motor that didn't even belong to that model plane, and it just doesn't seem to believable to me that it was a passenger jetliner that hit the Pentagon. It just doesn't seem possible.
Wait, you don't think it was a passenger? So you think it was a different plane than what they say it was?
Well, it seemed to me that it was a missile, actually.
Okay, but you know that like people died that were on that plane, right? Like you know that they have records of the individuals that were there. Like they put their names out there every year during the 9/11 memorials and stuff, and the families are there to grieve and stuff. Like those names are well known.
Well, did they recover the bodies off of the? Supposedly the story, if I remember it correctly, the plane that hit the Pentagon went through the wall, and then it burned up and disintegrated all the bodies. Did they actually find any bodies?
But we don't have to find bodies. I mean, if we have they've interviewed the people who like took those people's tickets. I mean, it's not like those people weren't real, right? Like this is exactly like Sandy Hook.
No,
we have evidence.
I understand that.
Well, I don't understand. How do you think it's a missile, then?
Steve? Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. What is the evidence that it's a missile?
Yeah,
because it seems to be the evidence you seem to be giving us is that you don't believe it's a plane, but you've not actually given us any evidence that it's a missile yet.
Well, in the video, now I'm not saying that the video isn't some kind of a fake or something, but according to what they showed on the video itself, that it was a regular passenger plane does not have. It has a softer nose. It would not be able to penetrate and crash through that wall and leave the size hole that it did. And in addition to that,
if I can just interrupt you just 1 second, though, Steve, I know you don't think it's a plane, but my question was, what evidence is there that it's a missile? Because that was the claim you made. So let's put the plane aside. We don't need to talk about the plane. What evidence is there that it's a missile?
Well, if it was an airplane, then the wings would have been sheared off, and the hole would have been there. I mean, if it was possible for the nose of the plane to penetrate that concrete wall. But what happened to the wings from the plane?
Sorry for interrupting again, but you've mentioned airplane about 3 or 4 times since I've asked the question. What evidence is there that it's a missile? That's the question I'm asking you. I'm not asking you why you don't think it's a plane. I'm asking you specifically why you think it's a missile. What evidence is there to suggest that that's the case?
The fact that it was able to penetrate a concrete wall, whereas a regular passenger jet plane would not have been able to do that. A missile would have been able to explode, make a hole, and get through that wall.
Well, I think a plane
that's what's in the video.
Going several hundred miles an hour at anything is probably going to do some damage, right? I mean, like, I'm not,
right.
Other independent journalists, other engineers have talked about the loose change film specifically. I don't feel like I need to retrudge a lot of that territory. One, because I'm not qualified to talk about the specifics of material science, but also because, like, there's a lot of people who have actually taken the time to, like, talk about the claims specifically made by those series of films and why they aren't true, right? Like, when we talk about skepticism as far as what actually happened with those events, when we're talking about a missile hitting it, I mean, we are, as Richard pointed out, we're going outside of what's the available evidence and proposing something different. If we're going to propose something different there, I mean, that's a big, bold move. It's going to take more than just, well, it seems like based on these conditions that this would be the appropriate measures. I mean, if it's a missile, it's going to have flight records for it, right? There's going to be people that were involved with it. I don't know what a missile is going to be doing at an airport filled with passengers taking a plane. But I fail to
I'd also
see.
be very, very interested in what kind of missile it is, because if you, the damage caused by that missile, if it was a missile, but more likely plane, was extensive, and it's not, as far as I can tell, consistent with missile damage. If you have a look at buildings that have been hit by missile, there's a large shell of the building left. It tends to destroy the internal kind of rooms of the buildings.
I don't know that it was a missile. That's what they said in the documentary. But it could have been. I don't know what it was. But
plane?
There doesn't seem to be a lot of evidence to show that it was a jet line. From the debris that was left on the lawn.
I don't know what you mean by it doesn't seem to be a lot of evidence besides the fact that it literally was a plane. Like, I don't know how much more clear I can make it. Like, there was a plane that was at no, Steve, there was a plane that was at an airport. People went on that plane, and then that plane is no longer there. Like, I don't know what happened to those people on the plane, but some people definitely went on a plane that day.
All I'm saying is I question what really happened. There's the Pentagon thing is just one thing. What about the fact that they have video of explosive charges that were
No,
yes.
Come on. Don't tell me you believe that, Steve.
Firemen were in the building. They heard explosives going off on the upper floors. It looked like a demolition type of a thing.
The demolition jet theories of the 9/11 attacks have never, ever have any concrete evidence to the fact. Never. There's been any video footage of it is suspect. Any eyewitness testimony is also suspect. It's just people saying, well, it kind of seemed like it was an explosive, or it seemed like we've never been able to recover any evidence suggesting that it was bombing. And here's the thing too. It's not like that there wouldn't be a precedent for people to talk about there being a bomb there ahead of time, right? Like, if the 90s was full of terrorism and a lot of that being bombs planted at public places. So it's not like that this is something that people would want to hide if they knew that it was true, right?
The week before the 9/11, there was a security check or something done in the building there, and the security cameras were shut down, and crew was in there doing something.
This happens. People do security checks.
I don't know that this is what was in the video, so it makes me question.
Yeah. Well,
Steve, can I just ask you, because you
go ahead, Richard. Go ahead.
You said that there was some aspects of 9/11 that you thought maybe true, the conspiracies which may be true. Are you telling us now that it's the whole thing you find suspect, or is it just some aspects of it that you find suspect?
Yeah, I mean, I can't say for sure what the motive was behind it, for whatever happened, but it seems suspicious to me that all of a sudden you've got, what was there, 20 hijackers or something? They knew who these guys were, and then they're able to take over these airplanes with box cutters. I mean, these guys that were flying these planes were military pilots. Being in the military, I don't think if I was a pilot on that plane, some guy coming in there holding a box cutter is going to make me crash a plane into a building. I think I would probably put up some kind of a fight. I mean, it just seems a little ridiculous to me to think that it happened the way we were told. I don't know exactly what happened, but it just doesn't seem to me that the story that we're told.
What if I told you that the motivation was Saudi Arabians who were disaffected by the influence of the American government in the Middle East, wanted to take revenge and planned a civilian attack? Like, it's not like that there wasn't
and there was a jihad put out on America.
Yeah, I mean, that
is very possible, but
when you have when your life is being threatened in a situation, a lot of us think that we would react in specific ways, but we don't. And as far as we know, it was just box cutters that got on board in there. It may have just been the not just the weapons, but also the psychology of that situation that makes people do certain things and comply in certain ways that might be unexpected. So look, I understand that you are not alone in that. A lot of Americans, I think the study I saw was like almost half think that like something was up with that. It was something like 40%. I'm not going to say that because I don't know the exact figure, but a non-zero number of Americans are definitely suspicious around the events of 9/11. And there's one thing to say, well, this is odd or this is weird, and it's another thing to make claims about what plans actually happened and what are the true events that transpired. And I understand, Steve, that's not what you're saying. You may not necessarily be saying, oh, I know what really happened. You're just pointing out some things that run contrary to what you believe could be true. But I'm going to question the source that you bring upon this, Steve, because again, if you're telling me that you got a lot of this from loose change, let me tell you, I'm not the first person to say that those series of movies are full of shit. Like, there's a lot of people who can debunk a lot of the specifics that go on in that. So I encourage you to look at some of that, because like the demolition theory and stuff, man, like that's old news. That's old stuff, man. I don't know. But anyway, Steve.
I know, but there was a third building that collapsed.
Yeah, I mean, like there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of claims that are made in that movie that aren't, or in the series of movies that aren't necessarily true, right? Like that are kind of a sort of mishmash of fact and fiction, right? Like if you're going to look at the events that happened on 9/11, I don't suggest looking at that movie because a lot of people have pointed out the wrong facts about that movie. Maybe if we looked at a documentary together about the consensus opinion on the events, we could start from there. But I'm not going to start from loose change, man. I mean, that's just bait. You know what I mean? Like that's just, I don't know. You can't start with something that's so flawed as a source, really, when talking about this stuff. I don't know. Anyway,
I don't know. It was pretty convincing. I thought that.
Yeah, Steve,
personal conviction is not
a lack of evidence,
truth, but I don't know. Yeah, go ahead, Richard.
Yeah. As a lack of evidence is not necessarily evidence of something else, and I think this is something that's very important to bear in mind. Just because there is not evidence of, or you think there's not evidence, or the claims are being made that there is not evidence that it's a plane, that does not mean automatically that there is evidence of a missile. And if the claim is being made that it's a missile attack, then that's the evidence that needs to be brought forward.
Yeah,
you don't disprove a plane flying into the building by not having evidence of a missile attack. If you want to make the claim of a missile attack, you need to provide evidence of a missile attack. And ballistically, the damage doesn't seem consistent to me with a missile attack.
Yeah, and again, like you have to be able to explain away a lot of established fact. Like again, like the people who are on the plane, they were real people. Like I don't think that should be up for debate. For the same reason why the Sandy Hook false flag attack should be up for debate, right? Like there's a lot of things that wouldn't make sense if you're just, I don't know, saying it's a missile or whatever. But Steve, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you other than I think your skepticism should be bolstered by what other people have to say about documentaries such as Loose Change and other 9/11 truther material, right? If you really want to look at this objectively, if you really want to figure out what the truth is here, you have to look at all the sides here. And I'm telling you, as someone who has also looked into this and has wondered for myself, well, what's really going on here? It's not a good place to start. Those series of films, they're like the worst. Honestly, I'm not kidding. They're really, really bad. But anyway, Steve, I'm gonna have to let you go. But I do appreciate you calling in and giving your perspective. Obviously, of course, Richard and I disagree. I think we've outlined that clearly enough. But I do feel different talking about this subject today because it's like, just like the Sandy Hook stuff, like there's real people's lives that were involved with this. So it's not just like theoretical fun territory for me. You know what I mean? Like this is a tragedy that has affected, I mean, really millions, right? But like on a personal level, less than that, of course. And it's a shame. It's a shame that we have to look at material that sort of bolsters what we want to believe, which is that we can't think that this actually happened the way it is. There must be something fishy going on here. I don't know. It can be a good instinct, but a bad instinct too, when it leads to people getting hurt.